Hello all, and good evening. Welcome to this weekend edition of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you live from the beautiful and now dark and comfortable confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. And I hope you're enjoying your weekend wherever you may be. I kind of wanted to basically just take this day to kind of touch on some topics that I didn't get to touch on throughout the week. Some of the basketball games, more of the games that happened Saturday night going into today. Today's games that happened, which were the Sunday afternoon games, Celtics, Heat, so on and so forth. I'll be touching on those games tomorrow. You'll see a video posted for those as well. But I just more or less wanted to touch base and, touch on some of the things that I didn't get to address earlier in the week. Some things, Eagles notes that I definitely wanted to address. Something that Jared Goff has spoke on. Definitely item relating to, basketball. And just some of the things, I felt like I could give a little bit more in-depth analysis, in my opinion, on regarding the certain topics and subjects. And as again, for anyone who hasn't joined the page or is new to the page, like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel, and I thank you so much for you guys, just for your support and everything. Your love is tremendous. Hopping right into it, this is episode 7. We are still on our 32 teams in 13 days segment, and lo and behold, we're down to 5 days now. 5 days being today, 5 days. And we're very close to the draft. I'm very anxious, very much looking forward to it. And we're wrapping up our analysis, coming to the tail end of everything. And then soon, as I stated, the night of the draft, I'll be doing a live show talking about my analysis and, point of view of the draft picks in the first round and what I think and, what I think of some of the moves and what I think might be potentially some moves to be made for day 2, things of that nature. But nonetheless, I wanted to get further into it and touch on the Lakers versus Nuggets game. And boy, oh boy, this was one hell of a game until late in the fourth quarter. I kind of just feel like the Lakers at this point, they're not a bad team. I mean, you clearly saw it. LeBron and AD was on point. They were doing everything they were supposed to. They were applying the pressure. They were applying the energy. Everything that was needed to be there was there. They need their bench to show up. And I'm starting to realize that theme the older I'm becoming and watching the sport of basketball, that without your bench in the playoffs, there is no way that you can really be an elite team. You cannot go deep into the playoffs and beat teams. You have to be, when you hear that term, 6 deep, 8 deep, 10 deep. You need that when you're going into the postseason, because without a consistent or valuable rotation, you're going to just lose games. Your games and opportunities are going to be missed. Having said all that, again, shout out to LeBron and AD for the performance they had. AD had 32. He one of his best playoff performances. I thought he showed energy and fight. If he shows up on an every night basis, the Lakers will have a chance. Play physical. I thought he was definitely dominant on the boards. I think he showed a lot of tenacity. He definitely showed the fight and the resolve that you wanted to see out of Anthony Davis going into the series with Nikola Jokic. Because, all honesty, he got fucking abused against Jokic in the Western Conference playoffs last year. Jokic was able to get that forearm in his chest, and he ain't really have enough for him. And it just seems like he's coming this year bigger, more physical, more determined, more focused. So kudos to Anthony Davis on that, and I hope that all works out, and I hope that they're able to rebound for game 2, because it looks like it'll be a hell of a series if Los Angeles's the Lakers bench shows up, because if it doesn't, they're screwed. I can honestly tell you that now. Speaking to the bench, D'Angelo Russell, my man, D-Lo, 6 of 20 from the field, 1 of 9 from 3. I mean, you got to really be like, I'm struggling with him because I don't want to sit here and bash him as if like he's some ass player who's just never produced or never done anything good. D'Angelo Russell is one of the most, and I got to be frank with y'all, one of the most fucking inconsistent players I have ever. I mean, he literally reminds me of a poor man's John Starks. For any of you old heads out there that know basketball, watched it in the 90s, people in my age bracket that watched it in the 90s, that saw the Knicks, you know who John Starks is. D'Angelo Russell gives you too many of these damn performances. And, if he's playing the New Orleans Pelicans, he's on fire, but he's playing the Nuggets and he can't shoot shit. He can't hit the wash out of a barn. I mean, that was a horrible performance. He literally cost his team the game, and it was bad. And Hachimura, you ain't low. My God, 7 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. I mean, what the hell were you doing? What the hell were you doing? I mean, like, I'm not, y'all got to be real. I'm not expecting Hachimura to drop 25 points a game. I'm not expecting him to drop 20 points a game. But damn it, 7 ain't enough. 7 ain't enough. Got to be more productive than that. Got to be more productive than that. The bench in the second team defense was just, it's so crucial to this series. I can't even stress to y'all, like, really pay attention. And if you get a chance, look at the bench scoring from game 1. Look at the polarities where you see the Nuggets bench and their starters kicking up. And I mean, Jamal Murray didn't have no great game, y'all. Jamal Murray, think about something. Jamal Murray had 22 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. That stat line looks great. When you realize he was 9 of 24 from the field, you're like, Bert, the fuck? How'd that happen? I don't know. But I can probably, help you with this. He shot, yep, and if I'm reading this correctly, yes, 4 from 9 from 3. So he saved his team and he saved himself. He bailed himself out with hitting some clutch shots, hitting some valuable threes down the stretch. Jokic hitting some threes. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hitting some threes. Michael Porter, of course, hitting some threes. This is what the Nuggets do. And the Lakers' hands are going to be full. And it's going to be a series. I've heard people say Lakers in 6 games. I mean, like I said, I ain't going to pull no punches to y'all. LeBron's my favorite player in this generation. I don't see him winning this series. Even at 38 with the remarkable and marvelous, things that he's doing at this age, it's too hard for me to see him overcoming this. Just pay attention to game 1, y'all. The Lakers responded, Nuggets came right back. The Lakers responded, Nuggets hit a 3. Lakers respond, Nuggets are up by 10. It's too much. It's just too much. So, like I said, bench scoring and second team defense is going to be crucial for the rest of that series. I'll have results and analysis for that game tomorrow. But yeah, it's going to be pivotal for the Lakers to really show up and kick up and do what they need to do. And like I said, shout out to Jokic, 32, 12, and 20. 32 and 12. I mean, this guy, Jokic, literally is just consistently showing you that the disrespect this man was receiving when he wasn't winning championships was so fucking offensive. I mean, like, think about it, guys. We were giving James Harden clout. What the hell has James Harden won? I mean, think about that. Nikola Jokic, right, was an MVP candidate and was getting disrespect because his team wasn't winning championships. The moment his team got right, i.e. Jamal Murray gets healthy, and then the rest of that bench gets together, oh, now they're a championship contender. We give a lot of credit to guys that ain't won shit, y'all. We got to start giving our flowers to people that are really putting in the work. Having said that, we're going to move on to the Sixers and Knicks coverage. This game was very, very physical. I like this. This was some old school basketball. I mean, I noticed, like I said, first game I touched on this game as well. Sixers Knicks, a lot of physical basketball, and I love it. It's the playoffs. Referees tend to swallow the whistle, no pun intended, tend to let things fly a little bit more. I like that. So, I mean, I'm all for it. Having said all that, Joel Embiid was going early. It seemed like he was about to take the game over, and then, of course, he suffers that knee scare after that dope-ass alley-oop, the self-alley-oop. I mean, I ain't going to finesse y'all. We've seen Vince Carter do fly-ass dunks. We've seen Jordan. We've seen LeBron. We've seen some fly in-game dunks before. Michael Porter Jr. We've seen Blake Griffin. We've seen guys really do it. That was one of the dopest self-alley-oops I've ever seen from a 7-foot center. Like, he lobbed it. Y'all saw it. He lobbed it. And just bang. And it was, unfortunately, the way he came down, not trying to injure, I'm not sure if it was Mitchell Robinson or Hartenstein, underneath. It was one of the two, but when he came down, he wasn't trying to injure him, and you could tell he wound up awkwardly landing on that knee and just re-aggravating the injury. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he plays because his knee is going to be the key to the series. So Tyrese Maxey showed up again, showed he could take a game over. I mean, literally, if Embiid was not injured, they probably would have won this game, y'all. I mean, that's how well Tyrese Maxey was playing. And it was really by default. He had to kind of kick up a little bit more because Embiid's knee was, a little weak, so a little tender. So it was like, okay, all right, well, I'm going to have to pick up now. Shout out to Tyrese Maxey. Salute, you brother. Been playing well all year. As soon as they let go of Harden, the chain's been off this brother, and he's been showing up. And he was doing this. He was doing numbers last year, so credit to Maxey. it seemed like after the injury, though, like I said, Maxey had to kick up, but it just seemed like the team kind of lost some energy, lost some fight, some spunk with that. The rebounding suffered. I noticed that watching the game. Some of the effort plays, for lack of better words, were, lacking because, Embiid wasn't really there to attack the glass or have guys help attack the glass, when he was swarming early in the game. So very interesting to see how Joel Embiid plays the rest of this series because he's the key. If he's out of it, the Knicks are going to walk away with this series. Kyle Lowry, shout out to Kyle Lowry, played well, 18 points, 4-7 from 3. I don't know if it's just that building, being from Philly, the Nova thing, playing in New York, being in Toronto, playing in New York. I don't know. He liked playing in New York, but shout out to Kyle Lowry because Tobias Harris, you are the walking equivalent of a thief. And what do I mean by that? Y'all probably wonder, thief, damn, Ed, that's kind of harsh. I know. Here's what I mean. He's stealing money. He scored 7 points, 3 of 7 shooting from the field, 1 of 4 from 3. That's not nowhere close to enough to produce, to be productive, to win games. The money he's commanding, So, be that as it may, he's stealing money. And I don't know if he got the Brinks truck out back. He got, the Ford station wagon outside. He got Pookie and Nana and them with the bags. I don't know. Somebody's stealing. And Tobias Harris is not doing what the hell he need to do. So, be that as it may, garbage. That was that performance. Kelly Oubre. Shout out to Kelly Oubre. Strong defense. Strong defensive performance. Did exactly what was needed. Did exactly what was required. I give him so much props because he had a hard job playing against Jalen Brunson, having to play defense and play some offense. Having being said that, I don't forget off the top of my head how much he scored, but it was a great performance for him. I remember defensively, he played Hart and Brunson so tough. Now, granted, Hart did explode with the 22 points, but it's not an everyday thing with Josh Hart. What he did on Brunson was even more remarkable because Jalen Brunson was 8 of 26 from the field. So that tells me Kelly Oubre's defense is definitely working. It was just more or less Embiid getting hurt kind of allowed New York's offense to get clicking late in the game. As I just stated, shout out to Josh Hart, 22 points, 13 rebounds. I always want to make sure I give guys credit. Josh Hart, you fucking shitted, bro. You did your thing. That was 13 rebounds. That's just it goes to a testament to what I'm saying, though, guys. If Joel Embiid is in there, he's probably not getting that many rebounds. You know what I'm saying? So, again, credit to Josh Hart. Great game, 13 boards. That should be the thing you circle and realize, like, okay, if Embiid's knee is healthier, that's not going to happen. 42 points from the bench for the Knicks. That's what you definitely wanted. They needed this type of production to be able to win this game anyway. Because as though they're athletic and though the Knicks have played well off all year, they don't have anybody really that can bang with Embiid. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. And the Sixers, two things to note I want to finally touch on before I go to the Timberwolves Suns. Paul Reed, my man, 4 points. Now, you done came out with this damn comment about you done wanted to see the Knicks, and that's what y'all wanted first. I have had a problem these past several weeks, and it's only been within the past month, y'all. I'm not going to act like it's a whole season thing. But within the past month, we've had two bum-ass players. Two. Paul Reed being one. And I even did my research on this one. Y'all remember Tari Eason? Warriors come out to play. Yeah. Remember that Rockets, Tari Eason? Yeah. How'd that work out for both of them? See, I'm noticing a theme, right? If you riding that bench, but you doing a lot of talking and less productivity, shut the fuck up. Needless to say, I'll go further on into the next segment. Timberwolves and Suns. Everybody's going to kind of give Anthony Edwards a lot of props, and I absolutely will too. I'll just state that first. Let's just go into that. Shout out to the Ant-Man. 33 points, 14 of 24 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3. Hella efficient. But I must say this. that didn't get going to the third quarter. And he was playing decently throughout the game. Him and KD put on one of the best matchups I've seen in a while. And it wasn't historic in the aspect of all-time great, but it was a great playoff game and a great matchup between a young up-and-coming star and a proven star. And it was just, I was so enthralled to see, these guys going tit for tat, jump shots, going to the rim, step-up jumpers. Yo, Anthony Edwards, y'all, I mean, I'm getting, damn the fact that, the name's identical. I'm becoming more and more convinced he might be, he might be on that path for coming for, best player in the league within the next year or two. And I'm not trying to be funny, y'all. You got Luka, you got Embiid, you got some dominant dudes. Look at what the Timberwolves is doing, y'all. Look at how Anthony Edwards is look. He does not look like somebody that is going to fall off in the next couple months to a year. He looks like his game's only going to keep getting better and better. That Steve Kerr challenge over the summer, talking about when him not making the Olympic roster and challenging him to be a better player, it just seems like it's all work. It seems like it's all been working. It's all been working. And KD being efficient as always, 33 points. Shout out to this, I want to say that KD is a legend. He's not a legend yet. He's a great player. He's a great player. We'll give him that great player status. I can't give a man a legend that, ain't really one on his own, being real. And to that point, you go to Phoenix, you team up with Bill and Booker, and you give your team 33 points and your teammates, Bill and Booker respectively, 15 and 18. Dog shit performances. This is not going to work. I've been saying this to people. When you get rid of a bench for two guys, one guy essentially, but you get rid of a bench and you don't really replace that bench, and i.e. your options are having Ryan O'Neal go off for 14 points while the rest of your bench gave you 18 points, you're probably going to get your ass kicked. So, be that as it may, Booker and Bill are going to have to play better. I expect them game 2 to play a lot better. I expect them to be a lot more efficient. But in game 1, they just got steamrolled and they were not ready. They were not up to the challenge. I give the Timberwolves credit. Again, shout out to Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. They showed up and showed consistency, fight on the defensive glass, and that is what's going to be needed. And if they do that consistently, they're easily going to win this series because the Suns don't have anybody really to contend with that size on the interior. And as long as Anthony Edwards is getting what he wants, and you got guys, Nikhil Alexander Walkers of the world, and you got guys like that hitting shots, it's going to be very hard to beat this Timberwolves team. It's going to be very hard. The bench was crucial with 41 points. Had to give a lot of props to the bench there for that. It's insane to really think about it, but to really, really go into context, if you really put this in deep thought, without that bench, there's no way in the world, no way possible that the Timberwolves are able to pull away, and then this game might be later and go later than what it possibly was going to. So, again, shout out to the Timberwolves for just being prepared. Shout out to the Timberwolves for doing what was required. Nikhil Alexander Walker, again, with his 18 points. That performance was definitely needed. It was to the point where literally he was the guy hitting those shots when the double teams were being commanded for Anthony Edwards. So, all props to this team. The Timberwolves have come a long way. I'm low-key pulling for you for a degree because, let's be honest, I mean, they couldn't win with KG. They had KG, Sam Cassell, Spreewell, and them boys couldn't win nothing. Hell, I'll go all the way back to when they had KG and Marbury and couldn't win then. So, who knows? We'll see. I doubt that they'll win the Western Conference per se, but you put a dent in the West. Maybe you get to the conference finals this year. Let's see. But nonetheless, I want to wrap up the basketball coverage today with Cavs versus Magic. And this one was a bit weird because, being completely honest with you, I'm kind of thrown that, some of the odds makers were giving the Magic a shot in this series. And it's not that the Magic are necessarily a bad team. I don't feel like the Magic can't, compete or anything like that. I just feel more or less that they're not equipped. The Cavs got embarrassed last year. They were a veteran team with some young guys. They got embarrassed. They were kind of more or less soaking up the fact that they were getting their respect and their props. Mitchell got injured. They suffered some injuries with Okoro. Jared Allen was dealing with some things last year. It just didn't seem to coalesce and come together the way that the Cavaliers wanted it to. Having said all that, it's come together this year. And if you watch game one, Donovan Mitchell was just on fucking fire. He looked focused and ready, and he was just ready for the game. He was just ready for whatever attack the Magic had prepared for him. The Magic looked nervous early on. They looked like they just weren't really prepared for the game. And sometimes that happens when you have a young team. Sometimes the moment's a little big. You're not ready for it. It's your first time being in that scenario. So, Cavs, it was just too easy, though, for me watching it. The Cavs basically they dared Orlando to hit the three-point shot. We're going to take away your paint. We're going to take away all your interior offense. Hit those shots. That's not Orlando's game. So credit to Cleveland for that coaching move and that decision on defense to basically force them to shoot threes, because that's not Orlando's game. And Orlando's going to lose the series if they continue to have to play like that. So they made the comeback push in the third. It was around the 8:28 mark, and they brought it to a 5-point game. And again, they were down by 20, and brought it within a single point of 7-12 mark. So it's not like Orlando can't compete with this team. I just more or less feel that Orlando's main issue is they're too damn young. And when you're young and you don't really know what you're doing, and sometimes you'll steal a game or two. But I expect this series to probably be over in 5 or 6 games. Franz Wagner, shout out to him, 18 points, 2 of 6 from 3. The bench was horrible, though. 18 points. Gary Harris, starting shooting guard, gave you nothing. I mean, Gary, I know you ain't Scottie Pippen, baby. I know you ain't, D-Wade. Damn it. You got to give somebody more than that. 12, 14, something. 7. Hell, Hachimura gave you 7. Damn it, Gary Harris. But anyway, I digress. It's going to take a lot for the Magic to win that series. Like I said, I expect the Cavs to win that probably at 5. But if the Magic can somehow attack the interior and can penetrate the interior on Cleveland's interior defense, they have a shot. But kind of going to be a hard task to follow for them. So we'll see. Having said all that, it's going to lead me into our football segment for the day. Obviously, our 32 teams in 13 days segment. Picking up where we left off, we were at the Seattle Seahawks, the 9-8 Seattle Seahawks. Kind of a weird year. Not seeing Pete Carroll there anymore. I'm be honest with you guys. Like I said, I've been watching Pete Carroll since the USC days. I vaguely remember Pete Carroll in New England in the late 90s. Vaguely remember that, but nonetheless, I definitely remember him at USC. Definitely remember him in Seattle, and it's gonna be weird not seeing him roam them sidelines. Great coach, great tactician, great leader. Great motivator. Didn't always do right by his guys. Sometimes he was a little bit more, lip service than pocket service. But be that as it may, he don't write the checks. That's John Snyder's job, and it's going to be a little awkward looking at the sidelines, not seeing that 70-year-old man pacing up and down the sidelines anymore. But, as an advisor now, I hope he's doing great. I hope he's okay. And he's still around football. So shout out to you, Pete Carroll. You're definitely a Hall of Famer, definitely a great coach, and you deserve all the credit you get. Having said that, though, talking to the guy that has taken his position, Mike McDonald, former defensive coordinator of the Ravens, now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Did some research on him. The guy's, been in the league for years. Guy's kind of, cut his teeth, in different defenses, earned his turn. This guy knows what he's doing as far as defense, but clearly now being the head coach, changes everything, because you got to have a broad view, a broad specter of everything and how you're looking at things. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Mike McDonald handles that. Offensive coordinator is Ryan Grubb, the new guy, first-year defensive coordinator, or offensive coordinator, excuse me. Aiden Durd, who's first-year defensive coordinator. A lot of first years here with Seattle. You're starting to see the theme. John Schneider, who is the GM, as I referenced to you earlier, who's been there for over 10 years now. They only have $1 million in cap space. Seattle does not have a lot of money to work with. Even going into next year, they're projected only have like $2.5 million. Not a lot of cap space to work with because of the Geno contract, some of the other contracts they have, Jamal Adams. It's kind of weird because they got a lot of dead money that's going to be lingering around. And last year was kind of the year where if they weren't a 12-win team, this had to happen where they had to start blowing things up. Having said all that, they have 7 draft picks going into the draft. 2 in the 4th round, 2 in the 6th round, no 2nd round pick. So I expect them to kind of be players and try to jump into that 2nd round somehow, giving up either that fourth, one of those 4ths or one of those 7th round picks. So we'll see how that works out for Seattle. New philosophy, new coach. I'm very interested to see how that translate because McDonald's style is very aggressive. He's more of a communicator, but I hear that, from what I've read, his style is very aggressive. So a little bit different than what Pete Carroll ran. So I'm very interested to see how that translates with the players and how that translates into wins and losses. Another thing I'm interested too is how will Geno Smith look? Geno took a lot of heat last year. He got benched late in the year. He didn't play that great, as he did the year prior, but it's Geno Smith. We're not expecting him to be Patrick Mahomes or, Peyton Manning. Having said all that, I kind of feel like when they brought Sam Howell in, they were kind of more or less saying that we're kind of low-key in the market for a quarterback. And which they are. It's not a secret. You kind of saw the way Geno Smith's contract was drawn up a couple years ago where it was like, oh, okay, well, they can easily get off him and get somebody else. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they carry that with Geno. And if Geno steps up this year and plays well and makes it a fight or contentious, for the Seattle front office to decide if they want to keep him or not. Me personally, he didn't play all that damn bad to cost him the job, but he didn't play great. So, in the NFL, unfortunately, most GMs think if we can't get at least to the 3rd round of playoffs, a championship game, conference championship, it's no use to keeping you around. Going forward, the running backs need to step up. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, whether through injury. I personally believe, because remember the games that I saw on my own watching, the offensive line play wasn't that great. So the offensive line play has to be better for those guys to take off, respect and give the numbers and the production within the running game that's needed because looking at some of their offensive rankings, they were 17th and they were 21st in yards, passing yards. That's garbage. It's not really going to get it done. It's not helping you whatsoever. Rushing yards, they were in the bottom half of the league, not getting it done. Defense, they were ranked 25th and in yards, they were 30th. Garbage. It's just... If you notice, 9-8 looks a lot better than what the stats show you, and it's because they played better. Pete Carroll being a motivator kind of could motivate guys to 9 or 10 wins. He could do that. He's known to do that. Having said that, that defense was a walking dumpster fire, and they're going to have to get replaced, and they're going to have serious consideration, like from their veterans. You're going to have better play. Reek Woolen, Devin Witherspoon. I get it. Devin Witherspoon was a rookie last year. Reek Woolen, 2nd, 3rd year player at that point. The production's got to be better. 11 interceptions as a whole from the defensive backfield. It's just not enough. Getting burnt too much, not actually being in a position to make the plays. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they go about it. But another thing I've kind of noticed too, they're going to have to beef up that defensive line. The defensive line for Seattle did not attack and get the pressure that has been commonly expected or what they've been used to. Not having the Clownies, not having some certain guys, the Michael Bennett's from way back when, having those big physical defensive ends come off the edge and attack the quarterback and create that pocket to where they can, then bull rush up the gaps and get the quarterback. It's going to make Seattle very limited on what they can do defensively. And it's going to put them in a situation where they're going to basically have to always play coverage. And they're not equipped right now. Devin Witherspoon is still growing within that role. Reek Woolen's proven to a degree, but bad year last year, has to play a lot better, even though he did have a decent interception total. And especially not having Quandre Diggs, that's definitely going to be huge. Which, as you heard me mention, the free agency additions and subtractions. I guess we'll start with the subtractions because I mentioned Quandre Diggs. He's gone. Jamal Adams is gone, but that dead salary cap, still eating away at the contract, at their salary cap. Will Dissly is now gone. Longtime Seahawk is gone. Nick Ballore is gone. And also Brian Monet, is gone as well as far as free agent departures. Having said that, Seahawks did spend a little money this offseason. Were able to keep some guys and re-sign some guys. Leonard Williams being the most notable. George Fant, offensive tackle. Kept his brother Noah Fant, brought him back. Brought in Laviska Shenault, who to me is just ultimately a special teams guy, not really a great deep threat on the offensive end. If he was, he would have lasted in Jacksonville and Carolina. I digress. Jonathan Hankins coming back, also having Farrell Brown, good backup tight end, come in. So solid acquisitions that could possibly help the team this year and help down, win you a couple games and, certain positions. But a lot of work that needs to be done defensively because that was pretty horrid. When you're ranked 25th and you're 30th in yards, you're hemorrhaging yards. You're hemorrhaging points at that point. So, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how they address it. But looking at their draft, their top 30 visits going forward, they brought in a very small list of guys, which tells me that they have a very keen list of who they're looking at. The only quarterbacks that came in were Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler. Only wide receiver that came in was Malachi Corley. Keep a nice little asterisk, a circle on that one, guys. They brought in a couple of defensive tackles, Christian Boyd from Northern Iowa, Byron Murphy II from Texas, and Tivondre Sweat from Texas as well. Edge rushers, Jared Verse, Florida State. Oh. And also Chot Robinson from the Penn State Nittany Lions. So very interesting to see that there was their only top 30 visits. Now, again, that was guys they actually had within the building. They sat down with a bunch of other prospects, through the East-West Shrine game, the Senior Bowl, Hula Bowl, all these different bowl games. Some of those games, they were able to sit down with some of these prospects, but these were the most notable ones that the media actually reported on, that they visibly laid eyes on and saw them meet with. So very interested to see how Seattle approached the season. Their hands are going to be full, and they're definitely going to have to address that defense and possibly the quarterback of the future. Leading into the next team, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, also at 9-8. What a damn disappointment. I really want y'all to think that 2021 quarterback class is looking real damn weak right now. I mean, when you really, and I'm gonna lean in close, y'all, really think about this, right? Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson. Trevor is literally going to get a contract because he's looked better. But I don't know if he's necessarily worth the money because, let's be honest, Jacksonville's going to give him the damn contract. It ain't like they got somebody to replace him right now. I don't see it. He hasn't been that bad. But in my opinion, the clout and the praise he's receiving as a bona fide number one, he hasn't really lived up to that hype. Better than Walker, the defensive lineman out of Georgia that they picked number one, which Tracy Walker. I mean, come on, y'all. Like that, Trayvon Walker, excuse me. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. That pick didn't make any sense then. It doesn't make sense now. I never understood it. It would just seem like it was a reach, but whatever. Having said all that, Doug Peterson is coming back as head coach. Press Taylor will be the offensive coordinator again. Ryan Nielsen will be the defensive coordinator. And returning for general manager is Trent Baalke. And if anybody remembers Trent Baalke was the GM for a while for the 49ers during the Jim Harbaugh run. One of the reasons I felt like the 49ers didn't win a championship is because of Trent Baalke. But Trent Baalke, guys, is just, to me, seems like one of those GMs that meddles. Doesn't really know his head from his ass, and he would much rather sign the mediocre player for the good deal than sign the great player and overpay, And whether you call that buying cheap and, selling high, however you want to term that adage or that colloquialism, but either way, it's fucking incompetent when you're trying to win Super Bowls. Just being honest. 13th in offense. They were 13th in passing yards, 17th in defense, and 22nd in passing yards, yards overall. Got to be better on defense. Offensive line, as much as I'm riding Trevor Lawrence and his inconsistency at the quarterback position, that defense was not good last year. They hemorrhaged a lot. The 49ers game, I get it. They're not necessarily better than the 49ers, but that was the game they were looking forward to, and they were obliterated. It was horrible. They looked bad throughout the year. There were spots where they just didn't show up and didn't play to their potential. Having said all that, third down, they were 17th. Not good. 26th on fourth down percentage and 21st in red zone percentage. So again, these are things that are just screaming to you inconsistent football. And for the Jaguars, I just feel like ultimately your window was within these past 3 years. And if you didn't catch it then, you may not have. But I'll touch on that further in a second. Cap space, they got around 31 million to spend, and that's because, i.e., they didn't retain Calvin Ridley. So another topic I'll be touching on shortly. But you had a lot more money to keep because you didn't keep, Calvin Ridley. So having said all that, it's very interesting because I think that they underachieved by great standards this past season. I really felt like they could have been the team that could have ascended to the 13, 14-win plateau, but kind of rested on their laurels. Maybe it was regression. Maybe it was guys kind of figuring the offense out. It's not like Dougie P's offense hasn't been seen before, so who knows? But very underachieving by the quarterback position. And it must be better for the Jaguars to be able to take that next step without it wallowing in mediocrity. Injuries and inconsistent play, I know, cost them, quarterback position, somewhere, in defense as well. It's just one of those things where literally, I don't know why the onus, I get it that it's a passing league now. And it's sexy as hell to see the quarterbacks bombing it down the field 60 yards, catching the receiver in stride or double coverage and the receiver making a great play. Sometimes you got to do something very simple. And I always felt like Doug Peterson didn't do this enough in Philadelphia. And he's doing it to a degree now in Jacksonville. Run the fucking ball, Doug. What are you doing? Run the ball. Run the ball. Doug, run the ball. Your rushing attack last year, my God, you were 24th in rushing yards. It's too much drop back passing. And then you're down, and then now this kid's got to throw 40 or 50 times for you to even have a chance to be in the game. Got to do better. Got to do better. Trent Baalke, Dougie P, got to do better with that. That running game has not been where it's expected to be or what it's needed to be. Outside of ETN, I really don't understand what they have there. So, defense needs to be better overall. 17th in the red zone. Just, again, middle of the pack, wallowing, meddling. They have to be better. They have to be better. There's no way that this team's going to be able to compete with the way that defense played this past year and the way that they didn't attack the quarterback. And for their lack of detail and pass coverage, it can't continue for them to have the success that they want to have. Having said all that, I'm going to get back to the offense. 26 in actual yards and league rank. But what was even funnier, though, is in fourth down percentage was 26. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. And 21st in red zone percentage. None of these numbers inspire hope. You're a Jaguars fan. You're hoping that Press Taylor could do something. I'm going to tell you now, so that way I can kind of spare you the grief. As an Eagles fan, Press Taylor was with, Dougie P when he was a coach. He's not helping. He's not helping. You need a real offensive coordinator. Press Taylor, not it. Not it. Going further, looking at their free agent acquisitions, they were able to get Eric Armstead from the 49ers. Huge acquisition there. They needed him. Ronald Darby. Ronald Darby had success with Dougie Peterson playing in Philadelphia in 2017. He's come back now, kicking the old tires, an old friend. Gabe Davis signed a big deal, leaving the Bills to come to the Jaguars. Shout out to Gabe Davis, for getting your money. We'll see how he plays because now he also has a running mate, Devin Duvernay, with him, another speed threat. So, it's going to be very interesting. I guess we all can clearly kind of see that they're coming with a different attack and a different approach, and they're trying to make sure that, that things just don't become stagnant. It just seemed like that they got bogged down too much in trying to make Trevor look good or trying to throw 40 or 50 times a game, and it's just not conducive to them having success. Having said that as well, they were also to bring in Travis Gibson, linebacker from the Titans, Mitchell Morse, center from the Bills, longtime center. Great pickup, in my opinion. I think he's going to help Trevor Lawrence tremendously, just as much as he helped Josh Allen being in Buffalo. And also rounding out acquisitions, Darnell Savage, former safety of Packers fame, joined the Jaguars. And Mac Jones, former quarterback of the Alabama, championship quarterback of the Alabama Crimson Tide, false one, frozen one, or fake one, or whatever analogy you want to use. There are people calling him, i.e. the baby goat. I'm not going to mention no names. Y'all know them on them networks out there. But, Mac Jones definitely was not that. And, now he'll be a backing up Trevor Lawrence. I know some people have fed this false narrative, too. Like, well, maybe with him being with Dougie P and being behind Trevor, if he gets in, he's going to play better. He's going to play well enough to stay the backup. Okay? Mac Jones is not a high-end first-round quarterback. That was a Mike Shanahan pipe dream that kind of just took off and just went on its own. But yeah, it's bad. It's bad. And thank God for him. I don't know if y'all get a chance. Google his damn press conference and he got back. He looks happy, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy for any guy that gets to go back home and play in front of his family, but it seemed like that was so much of a load off his shoulders and not be the starter in New England. Maybe down the line it changes for him, but he looks like he's very happy in the position that he's in. Having said that, though, the Jaguars did have some departures that are definitely going to affect the team. Foley Fadukazi, definitely going to affect the team. Long-term defensive tackle for them, that was good. Rayshawn Jenkins is now gone. Darius Williams is gone. Kayvon Chason, obviously he went to Carolina, as I previously touched on in a prior segment. He's gone. They were also Brandon McManus is gone. And last but not least, Calvin Ridley. I mean, you let him go to a division rival because, Trent Baalke, you wanted to play games with the contract. And when we have to, as fans, when we're watching our teams and we get a good player and we see our GMs or our teams spend money and acquire this player, and then we see our GMs and our teams do dumb shit to let the player wallow out there long enough to where he can go to a division rival and affect this, that general manager should be able to atone this. So without rounding this part of the segment up, I would say the hot seat is on for Trent Baalke. You know damn good and well that kid, Calvin Ridley, I'm speaking of, should not have lingered out there that long to where the contract was a question. You saw the chemistry that him and Trevor Lawrence had. You saw how he helped the offense. You saw how him and Christian Kirk were. You saw how everything was going and coalescing, and you blew it. So be it as it may, Trent Baalke is definitely going to have to make some additions and adjustments for that team to be better going into the season, and which leads me into what they're looking at for the future to kind of replenish the roster. Looking at their top 30 visits, I'm going to just round this up for y'all. They spoke to every damn top 50 prospect from the East-West Shrine game to the Senior Bowl to the Hula Bowl to the Combine to, top 30 visits. They done sat with all of them. They wanted to leave no stone unturned. They're not going to understand that. I can't blame them. They're in a position where it's like, we're not going to get the best necessarily player of that particular position, but we're going to get somebody good, and we need to just evaluate all of them because we never know who's going to fall. So, having said all that, they're going to need impact players on defense and offense, and it's going to be very interesting to see because, like I said, having all 50 prospects they've talked to at some point, once or twice, it's going to be very interesting to see who they lead. I tend to think they're going to lead defensive line or offensive line. That's just my personal thinking. They need to replenish from the inside out to be as formidable as they want to be, but we'll see. Rounding this up, we're coming to the Cincinnati Bengals. Who that gonna beat them Bengals? The Bengals had a weird year last year, y'all. Joe Burrow, trying to get healthy, getting injured in camp. That shit was a little hinky. Then, trying to come back and fight through the injury and then finally getting it together and then getting injured again. Browning not really, stepping up and then stepping up late because T. Higgins and the guys kind of start carrying it. It was just a bit much. It was a bit much. Credit, though, Zach Taylor, returning head coach. Like I said, offense last year was ranked 16th. It seems like to me that was a bit misleading, but then when you realize the yards that they generated, they were only ranked 22nd. Having Joe Burrow out on injury, having Jake Browning in, having to win games. Jake Browning's not the worst quarterback out there, but again, he's a backup, and he's not anybody's starter. So you kind of know what you're getting into if he's got to win games for you. Having said all that, they were 21st in defense and 31st in yards. Just not good. You're in the AFC North where you're playing the Steelers. You know what I mean? You're playing the Ravens, and you're playing the Browns. That type of defensive performance is going to get your ass whipped. You're not beating anybody playing like that. So, be that as it may, I think we definitely know where they're leaning towards in the draft. Having said all that, though, as I told you, Zach Taylor's returning back as head coach. New offensive coordinator alert. New OC alert. Brian Callahan has now become the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans. With that being said, They now have Dan Pitcher as the new offensive coordinator. No experience, young guy. I'm pretty sure he's either going to be doing what Zach Taylor tells him to do, or Zach Taylor's going to be kind of running the offense just until he has kind of like a regiment and his feet wet, for lack of a better word, so to speak. And yeah, it's going to be very huge to see how the offense responds, how the offensive players respond to that. Defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, he wasn't going no damn where. Lou Anarumo's defenses have been some of the best in the league. I give him credit because when you really think about how hard this is as a coach, organization, when you don't have a general manager, because ultimately that guy who should be the GM is in charge of personnel decisions, and there's no de facto GM because they all kind of sit in. It just seems like one big, what's that word? Clusterfuck. Yeah, it just seems weird. But then again, the Bengals have run it this way for a long time. It's worked for them, Just seems real mom and pop-ish, honestly. Looking forward, though, their cap space, they have $23 million in cap space. I noticed here I did not get their draft picks all the way down, so I do apologize for that. I'll probably put some in the caption as an asterisk, letting you know how many draft picks they have. But they definitely will be addressing the draft, and they're definitely going to have to address defense in the draft. Burrow's got to stay healthy, though. That's really the key to this whole nutshell. If Joe Burrow's healthy, it kind of probably changes the outlook of a lot of those games that they had last year. Zach Taylor's obviously going to take more of an onus on some of the play calling. T. Higgins. I just feel like T. Higgins has just gotten the real raw end of the deal where it's like, hey, man, listen, you're going to play out this last year on the franchise tag. Pretty good chance we don't tag you again next year. And even if you like it here, it's a good chance we're going to be able to keep you because we got to give Jamar Chase the bag. And it's a sad fact of, today's NFL. You can't pay everybody. If you compare everybody, everything will be fine. But just ultimately not how it works. And, credit to that guy and just being honest, because Justin Jefferson's been averaging 100 yards receiving a game, all last year. It's got a 1,700-yard receiver, and it's just different, So, with that being said, the rushing attack needs to be better as well. They didn't really get the production from that they expected nor wanted. Third down, 20th in the NFL. Fourth down, they were ranked 25th. That's just offensively not going to get it done. And again, I understand that you didn't have Joe Burrow for, portions of the season that, it's large swaths where, you're trying to win games and make it work. This is why it lacks and this is why it suffers. The defense, something, depending on the head coach, something misses attention to detail, i.e. Zach Taylor, offensive coach. Hence, defense sucks ass. So, something they're definitely going to have to fix going forward. Rounding this up, looking at their free agent tracker and looking at their additions and subtractions. Subtractions, we always like to start with who they lost first. DJ Reader, longtime Bengal, is gone. Tyler Boyd, no longer here. Chidobe Awuzie, gone as well. Jonah Williams and Irv Smith Jr. has also been let go. And these are all guys that, departed and left and, released now and going on to other teams. DJ Reader, I believe, went to the Texans. Tyler Boyd still looking for a new contract. Chidobe Awuzie, I believe he signed. I just touched on that a couple of days ago. Jonah Williams, I believe he signed as well. But, these were departures where they needed to happen. But again, when you're a team as talented as the Bengals, this day was coming where you're going to have to pay your quarterback and your wide receiver, and you're not going to be able to keep everybody. Having said all that, they spent a little bit of money this offseason too, y'all. Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle, they brought him in. Brought in Mike Gesicki, tight end. Zach Moss, running back that played, a year ago for the Colts. They brought him in. Geno Stone, safety from the Ravens, taking in, somebody from, within the division. That was crucial. Von Bell, safety. Von Bell, longtime Panther safety, also played for the, recently signed with the Bengals, as I just stated. Very reliable, very short-handed. Low-key gets decent amount of interceptions. Doesn't really get the credit for it, but, good signing for the Bengals. Cody Ford, kind of a rotation piece when he started out, but then wound up being a permanent starter and a good piece for the Bengals on the offensive line. And also Trent Brown coming in at tackle. Got to give the Bengals credit. They lost a lot of talent over the past 2 years, and they were trying to do the best with just keeping the team together and competitive. And I just feel like, going forward, this is definitely going to be what's needed to kind of elevate the Bengals to the level or status that they want to reach to be elite. Looking at the top 30 visits for the Bengals, nothing really too much to sneeze at. more memorable note, a shitload of defensive tackles. So if you're a Bengals fan out there watching this, shout out to you. If you're a Bengals fan at home or you're just a fan period of the game, keep an eye on the defensive tackle position for the Bengals. I think that's the position they might go with in the first round. Just my personal humblest opinion, just looking at the visits and some of the things that they've been reviewing and looking at. Having said all that, looking at it, they definitely have brought in some tackles as well. Giovanni Manu, TC Fuega. You also got Jalen McMillan, wide receiver from Washington, brought in. Joshua Cephas, wide receiver from University of San Antonio. He was brought in as well. Tight end Eric All from Iowa. So it seems like they're definitely trying to address playmakers while as well address the defense. So very interested to see how that goes forward. And the last thing I wanted to touch on this evening was a Florida State spring game. Touching on the Seminoles game where pretty much was like an inter-squad scrimmage. Mike Norvell wanted to get the team together and kind of get a good look and show the fans, how the team's looking going into this upcoming season. Having said that, first thing I want to give a shout out to is the Seminoles for acknowledging heritage, the Seminole heritage, wearing those turquoise jerseys. It was kind of weird seeing it with the garnet and red, but it was fire. Kind of got used to it real quickly. Shout out to Florida State for that. You're golden. Shout out to Seminole Nation. Shout out to the Black Seminoles. FSU, like I said, the best. Having said all that, their defense wasn't full strength due to injury and some guys being out and some guys, not being in school currently at the moment for, being sick or being out of, country for, different reasons. The defense looked amazing. I mean, Marvin Jones Jr. is that damn dude. I mean, he just all over the field. He didn't matter. Almost had 2 tipped interceptions, fought for the ball, aggressive to the quarterback, aggressive to the line. Much needed. Glad we got him out the portal. He's going to be tremendous for us. Roydell Williams, also we got another player, running back from Alabama that we grabbed out the portal. I think he's going to be tremendous for us. He looked real good. Looked very shifty and slippery through that offensive line. Next to Lawrence Tuafili, he looked good as well. It's one of those things where I'm very interested to see how they divvy up the carries. Is it Tuafili because he's a senior? Tuafili, or the veteran, I should say, for lack of better words. And he's going to get majority of the touches because I think him and Roydell Williams getting a nice, healthy dosage of both. That'll definitely give defenses a lot to consider and have to prepare for. DJ Uoyungale, I hope I pronounced your name right, brother. DJ, he played great. He looked exceptional on the move. I like the pickup from getting him out of the portal. For you Seminoles fans that don't know, our game this year, our first game of the season actually starts in Ireland. We play Notre Dame, looking to crush the Cloverleaf, destroy the Irish. So definitely keep you posted on the game times and dates for when that is. But we'll definitely be playing Notre Dame to start the year. The D-line rotation is going to be crazy for this team. So I hope Notre Dame, I hope you got your O-line ready. I hope they taped up because it's going to be a fight. Wide receiver Malik Benson from Alabama. Young kid I like that came out the portal that came to Florida State. Unfortunately injured his ankle in the game, got rolled up. They may have to go back to the portal for more help because they don't have a Johnny Wilson or a Keon Coleman there this year. And there's not really another guy that can command that attention or separate like that. So definitely going to have to address that. They'll be back in July. So they have plenty of time to address that position. But it's definitely something that's going to have to be looked at. And real quick, before I wrap up tonight's show, I wanted to touch on a few of those things, some of those topics, like I said, that I wasn't able to reach on early in the week. One of the things, first topic that comes to mind was Jalen Hurts and being in sponge mode. Ironically enough, I don't touch on this a lot with a lot of people I know or know me. And when I talk about the Eagles, I try not to make a shitload of excuses or pull any punches. I like to be very factual, very, matter of fact when it comes to my team, no matter the love I have for them. Having said all that, it's weird to me that we haven't caught on to the fact that when you have a good young quarterback and you have a good young offensive coordinator, try to pay them as much as you possibly can to coerce them not to leave until they have no choice but to leave. Because I'm not going to be the one to say it. Maybe people might disagree. But if they had to do it over, it seems like to me they might have kept Shane Steichen instead of Sirianni. And I'm not a Sirianni hater. I think Sirianni's done a good job. Man's never had a losing season. Minimum we've won, I think, with him was 9 games. Max we've won is, 14. So that tells me, he knows what he's doing. He knows how to motivate men or at least teach men. So I have no argument there. Having said that, though, I'm very interested to see how Kellen Moore works with Jalen Hurts, because I think Jalen Hurts can work with any good passing game coordinator or offensive coordinator. His daddy was a head coach. He knows the game. He knows the tricks of the trade. But when you don't have that continuity from college going to the NFL, it's hard. And we see the results. When he had the continuity, when he had Shane Steichen for 2 years, playoffs, next year Super Bowl. So got to give my man some continuity. I think, being with Doug Nussmeier, quarterback's coach, being with Kellen Moore, it's going to be tremendous for his game. He's been practicing, working out with Pep Hamilton. So I think Jalen's going to come back with it for a vengeance this year. And the fact that he'll be healthy, I think that will be key. Because the longer he's healthy and the more dangerous that offense is, it's going to be very hard to stop that Philadelphia Eagles team this year. Having said that, they also had Cooper DeJean in for a visit. Not a shot there. I mean, everybody knows the cornerback position for the Birds last year was trash. Outside of Darius Slay, you had a bunch of young guys, and the artist formerly known as James Bradbury, a.k.a. Mr. I Can't Stop Holding. I hope he can give you some semblance of something. I'm not naive to think that he still got it. I think last year more or less showed you he's done, but be that as it may, they're definitely going to be addressing cornerback position. And we know the Eagles. The Eagles kind of low-key snitch on themselves. The Birds, typically, whoever they bring in first for visits is typically who they're looking at. Terry and Arnold was who they brought in first for a visit, so keep an eye on that there. Leading into the next segment would be my comments and my thoughts on Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, and kind of like Jared Goff's promotional tour that he kind of had this year. It seems weird because I don't want to come off disrespectful. I'm being completely honest when I say this, not being facetious in any way. It is about time that Jared Goff started getting some fucking credit. Jared Goff was the number one pick, and I get it. He played with Jeff Fisher, who, in my opinion, outside of Steve McNair, could destroy any quarterback that he got his hands on, because he's just an old school prick who just became incompetent and stuck in his ways at some point. I digress. Nonetheless, it's going to be very interesting to see how, looking at the moves that need to be made, looking at how the Lions, are progressing, he's going to be due that contract soon. I was told Jared Goff couldn't play without Sean McVay. Now he's played without Sean McVay, and he's looked good. The Lions were in the NFC Championship game. I need this for y'all to know. The Lions prior to last year had not been in the NFC Championship game since 1991. And that year was against the Washington Redskins. And yes, obviously the Redskins won. Now the Washington Commanders. So, be that as it may, shout out to Jared Goff for finally getting his props on his tour. Having said that, it's going to be very interesting to see how teams attack the Lions this year. The offense coordinator came back, Ben Johnson, so not much is going to change. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they're attacked and how teams approach them going into this year. Off the top of my head, I do remember there was another topic I wanted to touch on, which was, last and not least, Howie Roseman, and a testament to Howie and how he approaches free agency and replenishing the team. There was an article on Pro Football Talk earlier in the week giving Howie credit, but I wanted to kind of expand more from an Eagles fan's perspective, or somebody just, from afar, just watching it. Howie Roseman, low-key, has built this team where he fills the needs through free agency and replenishes the roster through the draft. And there's teams out there, Dallas Cowboys or New England, prior to this year, some of these teams have had this philosophy where we're going to spend as minimal as possible in free agency and then brag about a draft pick who ultimately is, a draft pick is really just potential. And in my dictionary, potential is a French word meaning you haven't done shit yet. So with that being said, a lot of potential, but no real promise. So, yeah. Going to be very, very interesting to see how, Dallas addresses all that. But I wanted to more or less highlight Howie Roseman, and credit to how he's been building his roster. Credit how he's had this team in contention over the past couple of years. 2 Super Bowl appearances, Super Bowl victory within the past 6-7 years. Howie will finally get the credit when it's said and done, but I need you to hear me, Howie, and hear all Eagles fans when we say this. Please stop making moves and then realizing a year or two later you got to go back and redo it and get the guy you should have got. Just get the guy you should have got from the rip. This year in the draft, don't take no reaches. Get the guy you know you should have got. Get the guy you know you should have got. Get the playmaker that you know you need. Get the defensive guy that you know you need. Don't waste time. Show the Dallas Cowboys, show some of these other teams how you actually replenish a roster, how you fill your draft needs, how you actually attack free agency. But nonetheless, that'll be the end of the show for this evening. I thank you guys for sitting there with me. We almost made a full hour. I want to thank you guys. And again, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for the support. Take care and have a blessed weekend. Peace.